Faces dropped on a beautiful, little chilly Friday morning, June 14th. I think the temperature actually got under 60 degrees last night. It's craziness.
Oh, wow.
Soccer Down here live for June 14th. It's a Friday. It is an early morning after a kind of late night at the Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Not that any of us were there. Jarrett Smith was, and he is off to work this morning. There were a few others, team officials, friends and family, players who were not in the 18, but it was a closed-door 3-1 extra time Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup win that, hey, welcome to the Cup. These are the games that happen sometimes in the Cup. Charleston gets the first half goal on a mistake. They try to make it stand up. They do for a long time, and then they give up the goal, and it looks like they hit the wall. But at the same time, Atlanta's hitting a wall because you're getting into extra time and legs are starting to get heavy. But Brandon Vasquez comes in off the bench and gets 2 goals in extra time, leads Atlanta on to the round of 16, where they will head to Ohio to face the Columbus Crew on Tuesday at Mopfre Stadium. And the weather does not look great for Tuesday because that's just what happens to Atlanta United in the Open Cup or when they go to Ohio or both. That's just how it is. We'll get into everybody's responses, thoughts about the game. If you had a chance to check out our post-match show last night, we're going to be doing some kind of pre- and post-match for the game on Tuesday. Not sure details just yet. We might try to set it up with a viewing party, so stay tuned. We'll have some news for you probably over the weekend as we get closer. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of people listened, so thanks for checking us out last night ahead of the match and after the match. John, you had a chance to watch all of the match. You were out last night, saw the first half, then saw the rest. What were some of your thoughts as you were taking copious amounts of notes?
Yeah, copious amounts of notes in green pen. Yes, it was my homework, and I ended up with something a lot larger than Cliff's notes. P.T. Martinez, and you look at, I look at my notes and I see P.T. all the way down. I see a lot of Breck Shea. I see a lot of Miles Robinson, and I see Brandon Vasquez as a part of it too. And it's good to see Brandon Vasquez. I mean, when you and I caught him last week, 10 to 15 minutes, getting him back out there, and then it kind of tapered off. To see him follow that up with this performance, I thought that's good in his development and getting back to full song. Breck Shea, at times when you look at Breck, it's almost like he's floating out there, and it's effortless at times. At least that's the impression it gets. And it was good to see his effort out there last night. P.T. Martinez, at points when I was writing my notes, it's like you run out of superlatives. And tremendous effort from P.T. last night. So I look at him. I look at Justin.
Let's talk about Pitty for a minute. Settle down.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of folks who have said that in the first half he was bad, or he was awful, or he was ineffective. No. Let's have this conversation. Was he bad or awful? No. That's, in my mind, that's absurd. I think there's an expectation that you go into a cup match and you dominate, and especially if you are P.T. Martinez and you are as good as he is and you are the South American Player of the Year, that if Charleston Battery steps on the field, you should just be able to do what you want. Please tell me the last time that happened on just that is the absolute normal thing to see happen when a top division team faces a lower division team in a cup game, in a round of 16 game, in a round of 32, whatever. It's not that easy. Charleston Battery players are professionals. Are they MLS players? No, they're not. And it showed over the 120 minutes. But can they play? Yeah. There's a mentality that P.T. Martinez should be able to float above the field and do everything he wants to do and not be defended and never make a mistake. And look, guys, it's just unfair. It's just holding to a standard that is just completely unfair. Was he better in the second half and the beginning of extra time than in the first half? Yeah, he was. That doesn't mean he was awful or bad in the first half, and it doesn't mean that there was something wrong. It means that, hey, Charleston's not a bad team. It means that they were up for this cup match, and that's it. That's life. That's professional sports, especially professional soccer, where you get these situations. You don't see the Toronto Raptors play a G League team in a game that matters. But if you did, I can guarantee you that you would see Kawhi Leonard struggle a little bit, because you would see players from whatever G League team it is step up and want to shut down Kawhi Leonard and make their name on shutting down Kawhi Leonard. You would see that. You see it in Copa del Rey. You see it in FA Cup. You see it all the time. Good players do find a way to take control of the game. And what Pity Martinez did in the second half was outstanding. I really hope that at some point Pity Martinez can be judged fairly by folks. I really hope that happens. And I hope that the Charleston Battery can be judged fairly. I think it's almost insulting to them. And this was something that came up on the broadcast. There was a line, I think, going into extra time about, well, Phil Breno's made 10 saves, but I can't think of any of them. That's insulting.
Seriously?
To Phil Breno. Well, no, I mean, were they all, like, world-class saves? No, because they never are. Were there some really good saves? Yes. Phil Breno played well, and stop worrying about people saying standing on their head. He made double-digit saves. That's a good night for any goalkeeper in the world. There's this hang-up that, and I don't know, maybe it's just an experience thing, maybe it's just a time thing to understand some of the levels and things, but sometimes goalkeepers play very well against you, and it happens, and it's part of the game. And I know that people don't like, air quotes, very big, large excuses. Sometimes they're reasons. Sometimes they just happen, and they're things that happened in the match. Did Breno stand on his head? I wouldn't call it that. To me, that's a goalkeeper who has a man-of-the-match type performance. And Phil Breno didn't have that last night. He was very good. And he also made a mistake on the equalizing goal. A big mistake on that one. And you could say, depending on if it's Taylor Mueller's fault or Breno's fault, that he had a mistake on the second goal, the go-ahead goal. That doesn't mean that the saves didn't happen. And to diminish the opponent to make it come off like Atlanta was horrible, I don't get it. And I don't think it's a smart way to look at this game. I thought Charleston played the best that I've seen them play in 2019. Haven't seen every one of their games, but we have seen them this season, and we have kept an eye on the Battery. And, John, you probably keep an eye on the Battery more closely than I do.
Yeah.
This felt like the most complete performance they've had, especially in a while.
Yeah.
You get an early goal, and you're going to then get an extra boost. You already had a boost coming in because you were fired up about Tuesday. You get the early goal. You've got energy, and you've got a big boost to try to see this out. It didn't last, but that doesn't mean that just some of the things that get said about these games, look, they're not as easy as you think.
No. And you look at, and I'm looking at my notes really quickly here, in second half, Pity Martinez is shot in the 49th where Breno comes up with a save. Romario point blank in the 53rd where Breno comes up. Breno on Miles in the 71st. Breno on PT in the 76th. Punch save in the 84th. And another save on PT in the 86th. And this kind of lends itself to my PT Martinez discussion as much as it does my Phil Breno discussion. But I'm seeing a lot of PT and I'm seeing a lot of Breno on here. And I think that in these competitions, you know, especially when you get a goal up early, you're fired up, you come in, you get a goal, you're up early. You don't sell the lower division teams short in these competitions, just as a rule, because they're going to come in fired up. They're going to come in with the idea of wanting to prove something, not just to themselves, not just to the team that's across the way, but to everyone else in the competition that they belong. And Charleston has a history in this competition of belonging and have done it for quite some time. So don't sell lower division teams short in any competition. And last night was an example of that early on.
The overall level is a lot better than you think it is. That's just the thing. Like, you see a team like Orange County FC. Can they win MLS? No. Can they win games in one-off situations? Yeah, they can.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to the match with the Galaxy, and hey, they were scoreless at halftime. Doesn't mean the Galaxy were terrible and forgot how to play soccer. It means that you faced a motivated opponent and you wore them down. There was a lot last night on conversation about Atlanta's approach and the way they played. And let's start with Will Palmer, because Caleb Cook agrees with it as well. I thought the game was pretty good last night. Wish it could have been there, yes. Although when we are going against bunkering teams, I feel like the transition from the back is too slow, allowing the opposition to get back to defend. There's a couple elements to that, and I think there's a mentality thing that people do need to understand about the way that Frank DeBoer wants this team to play. And the way a lot of managers want their teams to play. This is not just Frank being strange and out on an island doing things his own way. So to read this, and please let me know, Will and Caleb, because I know you guys have both kind of echoed these at different points. You want the transition against a bunkering team to be faster. Now, I hope you don't only want that. Because if it's all one speed, it's the same thing. If you just go fast all the time, it's the same thing as going slower all the time. It gets predictable, and that was a big word that got used a lot last night, and I thought it was silly. When you go fast against a team like this, and the thing that a lot of managers will tell you when that happens, the faster you go the other way in transition, the faster the ball can come back down your throat, because you don't have any organization. You don't have any structure. So if you are trying to transition against a bunkering team, one, you've got to bring them out to be able to transition. Because if you just go fast up against a stacked defense, then you're running into a brick wall. And that doesn't work. So if you want to do what you guys are saying, and you want to attack fast, the way you do it is you draw them out, you bring them into your own half, then you turn it over and you go. When those situations happen, Atlanta generally goes fast because you're not going up against a stacked, bunkered defense. When you're going up against a bunkered defense, and let's take the New York Red Bulls game as a prime example here. They were 10 men at this point, but they were organized very well, 2 lines of 4, 1 up top. When you turned it over, and this wasn't a case of you going too fast, it was just a turnover. When you turned it over, did you see how fast they countered against you, because they were structured and organized in their bunker? It was really just 2 lines of 4, not even that deep yet. But when they transitioned, they had a structure, and they were able to go and break down your lack of structure. If you just go fast, if your idea is just, well, they've got a lot of people back, we're just going to go fast, you're dead on the counter. Done. You have no structure. You've gone fast. You've potentially given the ball away fast as you're getting numbers forward, because you can't just go fast by one person. One person can't just run as fast as it can, unless you're Miguel Almiron and you're in space, which is a different conversation altogether. If you are this team, if you are Darlington Nagbe, if you are Pity Martinez, if you are Ezequiel Barco, and you just go as fast as you can, you got to have some help, which means more people are going to be running with you, which means your structure is going to disintegrate a little bit because you're going as fast as you can. Ball turns over, you're dead on the counter. Flat out. Think back to the last 2 years when I think a lot of people say that Tata Martino's teams went faster. They played faster. Think how many times the ball came back down your throat and it was 1v1 defending or 2v1, because we talked about it all the time, John, where you have to get used to Parkhurst and Leandro Gonzalez-Perez defending 3-on-2 breaks.
Yep.
That's not what you want.
No.
That Tata Martino was trying to get away from that. And there's always this talk about Tata's teams did X and did this so differently. Tata was getting away from that because it invited too much risk. So part of the whole idea of going forward in an organized way, and Pep Guardiola will tell you and others will tell you, and I know they kind of referenced it on the broadcast last night in a bit of a mocking way about a certain number of passes you're trying to get organized. That's vital because when it turns over, it does two things. It gives you structure to deal with the counter and recover, and it protects you. It also gives you the ability to immediately repress and immediately try to win it back because you have numbers around the ball that you just lost. That's one element that I want to see Atlanta get better at. I think there's been strides in that area, but it's not where you would like it to be just yet. However, the organization part of it is what protects you, and it's why this team is so good defensively. And you think back to the goals Atlanta United's conceded this season in these types of games, it's individual mistakes that have hurt them. It's an individual mistake, which is going to happen because individuals make mistakes. It's not team structure deficiencies that you're giving up goals on. That's a big step in the right direction. That's my long possession conversation for the morning.
Rachel Laffleck comes in this morning, says the problem is not the transition to the final third, but the movement side to side has to be much faster, more one-touch passing to create space from the wing and create 1v1.
There has to be more variety, and there was as this game went on. This is the part where I disagree with some of the takes, so it has to be faster. It can't just be fast. There's got to be changes of pace. And I think when Atlanta's at its best, you see that. But there is an element as well of wearing a team down that is playing in this type of style. Look, Charleston doesn't have the fitness to be able to sit back and defend all the time. And I thought that's something that the broadcast announcers really got dead on. They went back and defended too deep too early. They don't have the legs to do that because it wears on you to sit back and defend in that way. Some of the side-to-side is making them move and wearing them down. Some of it is trying to create gaps that you have to have the movement off the ball to exploit. I think the biggest issue last night in the first half and early in the second was you weren't getting anything out of the forward. Romario Williams just wasn't making those runs. He didn't give you that presence. He wasn't a threat. And against three center backs, it was too easy for them to sit and kind of just screen their goal, and they weren't being threatened or moved around as much as they needed to be. So all of your opportunities were coming from wide positions to cross or wide positions cutting inside. You needed more centrally, and that would have helped break things down and help move it around. But again, it's you can't just play at one speed, whether it's fast or slow. You can't just do one speed. I think Atlanta's getting better at this. But are they at their best right now? No, they're not. They can play better, and that's a good place to be. The thing that it comes back to, and we asked this question a long time ago, John, and we didn't really get an answer. I think the answer that we got was not necessarily the case. We asked what fans want to see in the game. Like, what do you like? What is your ideal style of play? What do you want? And there was a lot of talk about different things, but it really came down to winning.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to get more of this that I think there is an idea that a game that is more 50-50, and I'm not talking possession numbers. People still get really worked up if you say a team had a lot of possession as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But a 50-50 game in terms of we're going to play over the top. We're going to give up 50-50 balls to try to get something the other way. We're not going to try to control the game because we don't think we can. So we're just going to play a 50-50, throw your hands up, flip a coin kind of game. That's not what Tata Martino was trying to do, especially as his time went from day one to his final days in Atlanta. He was evolving to a manager who wanted to control the game much, much more. Frank de Boer takes that idea of wanting to control a match further than Tata Martino did. I think partially because you don't have a Miguel Almiron that adds anarchy to a match. I mean, his speed is just something that's going to create chaos, and you love that. But you don't have that anymore. So to play a game that is more 50-50 and play as fast as you can, the faster you play, the more out of control you play. I think everybody gets that. So if the idea is to play as fast as possible, you're going to be more out of control. You're going to give up more chances. You're going to give up more goals. 100%. And to me, if you want to win a championship, that's not the way to play. You want to be in control. You want to control the game. You want to dictate the game. And you generally do that with the ball. You generally do that with possession. Sometimes slower possession, sometimes faster possession. But you do it with possession. The other way you can do it is with a pressing style like the Red Bulls, which is an in-your-face pressing style. Or you do it as a counter-attacking team. Think of some of the earlier Jurgen Klopp games and days with Dortmund, and maybe when he first got to Liverpool. He's evolved a little bit more to a manager who can control games in other ways, but that's really it. And in my opinion, you're better off if you have the players to do it, to control games with the ball as opposed to without it. But when it's a 50-50 game, when you're just playing fast to play fast, you're inviting chaos. You're inviting chances, and you're inviting a lack of control of the game, and you're going to give up more goals. And when you give up goals, you're going to give up points. Those are the trade-offs. I don't think it's bad soccer to play the way that Atlanta United wants to play, where they have 65% of the possession, and they control the match. I don't see anything bad about the way Atlanta United played in the second half. It was good. It was free-flowing. They were going for goals. They were taking some very creative, skilled chances. Pity Martinez put in a cross from about 50 yards out on the wing that was just over the head of Romario Williams. I think I tweeted that it was audacious. I mean, to have the ability and the vision to try to pull that off and to nearly do it, I love that stuff. That's what gets me excited more than a fast break. It's all about how you see the game. It's all about what you want. But if you want a faster game like that, it does invite more chaos, and you're going to concede more. You're going to give up more goals, and I don't think that's the way to winning championships or cups. I think you want to control games, and Atlanta wants to control games with the ball. And that's going to be in the DNA.
Well, and I mean, think about...
Sorry.
But there's nothing wrong with that, because I think that when you look at something and you see something done one way, you're making the same car. It's like there's only one kind of car from this dealership. There's only one kind of food in this restaurant. There's only one speed to do something. You're eventually going to be found out. Doesn't matter what that one way is. If you do one thing one way, whether it's fast or slow or whatever, eventually people are going to find you out, and they're going to find a way to do something in a way that you're not and be better than you. Doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't necessarily happen like that, is if that your one way is because you have a genius of a player, a generational talent, and even then teams will find a way to try to limit or stop it. I mean, you think to Michael Jordan, and when he was taking over basketball, the Jordan rules that the Pistons created. It worked for a minute until he figured out, until he got better players around him, and two, he figured out ways to deal with it. But yeah, even that's harder to deal with because it's unpredictable. Individual talent is unpredictable. Miguel Almiron, what he would do was unpredictable. He wasn't just a fast guy. He could do different things on top of his speed. Diego Maradona at his best. Lionel Messi at his best. I mean, Pep Guardiola at Barcelona had the ultimate because he had a system that controlled matches, dominated matches. But when that wasn't enough, he had the greatest player of a generation to go create a magic spell and score a goal. He always had that as well, so he had the perfect combination. That's why those teams are probably some of the best teams that we'll remember down the road. But yeah, I mean, if you're one way in anything, any which way, if you have one way to win, you're going to get found out.
And so for me, I would think that you want to be exposed to something where you're doing it more than one way. So if the opposition, whatever that is, thinks they've got you figured out, then you've got this other way of doing something. And then that way, variety can get you places that only doing one thing one way. If you're fast, people find you out if that's your one thing. If you're pedal down fifth gear the whole time, eventually you get found out. If you're the other way, people find ways. So I think that you want to find that balance of there are times to do things one way, there are times to do things another, and not just be one way to do things. So
honestly, I think it's even a step further, because it's not even just that. You want to control games, matches, seasons. You want to limit the opportunities to get hurt. And I think what's funny about it is we talk so much about Atlanta with the ball, and it was the same with the Barcelona games and other teams that are possession dominant. We talk about what they do with the ball so much, but really they're defensive teams in a lot of ways, because everything is revolving around how they're organized. And organization is a defensive characteristic because it allows you to deal with counters, it allows you to deal with attacks. So much of the possession that is done and the side-to-side and connecting a number of passes before you really go and getting everybody into the attacking half, so much of that is about being organized defensively. So I think there's even a step beyond like the way you play, like what you're saying about go fast, go slow, go this, go that. There's a philosophical part to it. And for Atlanta, and I think for any team that wants to dominate possession, you would think that it would be the philosophy is to score as many goals with the ball as possible, but it's actually the opposite. It is stay as organized as possible to not concede. And then you rely on your individual talent in the final third to break it down. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes it's fast. Sometimes you're running up against a brick wall.
Yeah. I mean,
but you stay organized.
Yeah. Sometimes your analysis can be done faster in certain situations than others. And it just depends on the situation.
So much. Yeah. I mean, so much of it, like if the other team, if there's a flaw that you realize straight away and you can attack and exploit, great. That makes it easier for you. But good teams that are organized or teams that are fighting hard like Charleston did last night, I didn't think they were all that organized. I thought they were just really hard-working defensively, and they got the job done. They made life difficult for Atlanta. Without Joseph Martinez, it was always going to be a different road, and you get the super sub performance from Brandon Vasquez. And you mentioned that it was the best we've seen of Vasquez in a while. I would say it's the best of Vasquez that we've seen since the summer of 2017.
Yeah.
And that was where, in the Open Cup, Brandon Vasquez really started to break through. I mean, he is the leading goal scorer in the Open Cup for Atlanta United now. He came off the bench and gave you exactly what you needed, a little more dynamic up top. First pairing with Romario Williams and then kind of playing off of him more once you got the equalizer. But Vasquez was exactly what you needed as that different piece in the attack to help open things up. And, we've talked a lot, and it came up last night about roster and who should go where and who's priority here and who's going to be around next year and all that type of stuff. Brandon Vasquez had a night last night that he needed to have because he had fallen off a bit due to injuries mostly and just kind of struggling to get any consistency and rhythm. He needed a night like that. He was the hero last night. He gets the job done when the team desperately needed it, and Atlanta United moves on in a large part due to what Brandon Vasquez did up front. Let's take a break since we've been going on for a while. We do have comments from Frank DeBoer. It's about 9 minutes of his post-match comments. We'll get to that. We've got Mike Conti coming up at 10 o'clock as well. We've got a lot of questions and comments, which is great, so we will get those as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 14th. It's a Friday flashback since there are no Major League Soccer games, no Atlanta United games this weekend. There is an Atlanta United 2 game, and we'll talk about that. John, there's about 1 million games on. You're going to be okay, I promise you.
Yes.
It's going to be all right. But the Friday flashback question, in honor of Brandon Vasquez and his super sub performance last night, who is your favorite super sub in soccer history? The one that immediately came to mind for me was Salvatore Schillaci in the 1990 World Cup for Italy. Kept coming off the bench and scoring goals and saving them. He ended up winning the Golden Boot, and he didn't start in the tournament. Didn't start at the beginning of the tournament. He was the epitome of the super sub. The other one, and it's from that tournament too, was Roger Mila from Cameroon at 42, or maybe 38 years old in that one, because he did come back and play in 94.
Are we sure about that?
What is that supposed to mean?
Meaning that some folks kind of sit there and say that they're younger than they actually may be.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case here. And I'm not going to accuse Roger Mila of that. Roger
he might have
Mila,
been 40 or 41 when he was listed as 38.
No, I disagree with that. I think that's a very broad assumption that would often be untrue. Roger Mila was a player for Cameroon that at that stage of his career, because he played in the 82 World Cup, he couldn't play 90 minutes. But he was their super sub, and he scored the goal where he took the ball off of René Higuita from Colombia in the round of 16. Sorry, Parceros. But he took the ball from Higuita outside the 18 to seal that one. The game against England is still one of my all-time favorite matches in any tournament. And Mila earned a penalty and had an assist on their go-ahead goal before England ended up coming back to win that. It was those two in that tournament. That was the tournament of the super sub. Who's your favorite super sub for your team that you've followed?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, I have a favorite super sub, but it wasn't necessarily for teams that I followed. I mean, it's pretty much anything Alan Gordon.
Yeah, Alan Gordon is probably the best MLS super sub, although Ilsinho is going to try to beat that because Ilsinho has been ridiculous in that role for Philadelphia this year.
Yes. Yeah, his goals per 90 minutes, Ilsinho. that's a fun ratio. But there have been too many times, and I know that Jarrett could probably back me up on this, where you sit there and you see Alan Gordon as a late check-in, even if you're not watching the match or anything. Alan Gordon checks in, you sit and go, yep, okay, I know what's going to happen now. And then 10 times out of 9, it usually does.
Yeah, Alan Gordon, I would say, is the best super sub in MLS history. He kind of owned that role as his career went on. I think Alan Gordon's one of the most underrated players in MLS. So much better with the ball at his feet than he got credit for. I was so glad to see him get an opportunity with the national team when he did, and he had a huge day as a super sub for the national team in the semifinal round of World Cup qualifying. Had an assist that the team had to have in a match. I want to say it might have been against Jamaica. It was late in a game where he came on, and Gordon had the assist on the game winner that the U.S. desperately needed, or they wouldn't have even made the hex. It was getting to that degree. But Gordon was a guy who gave you something different for the national team at that time. He was like a target who could play, a number 9 who could bring others into the game, and you just didn't have that as much. Josie Altidore hadn't evolved into that as he is now. I think he can do more of that at this point, but he wasn't really that at that point. I'm trying to think of other super subs. I mean, you think in other sports, Vinnie Johnson was the microwave.
Oh, well, yeah. Microwave, Vinnie Johnson.
We have not had a microwave in soccer. Alan Gordon could have earned the microwave nickname. Ilsinho feels like the perfect
I was going to
microwave.
say, wait a minute now.
Well, nobody's calling him that. Philadelphia, I don't think they want to recycle a Detroit nickname.
No.
Yeah, Ilsinho is definitely the microwave. Brandon Vasquez was the microwave last night. So share your favorite super subs in soccer history with us on Twitter. Let's get into a few of the comments. Michael Head said, Charleston keeper played well. I just think standing on his head comment is used way too much. Yeah, it was Michael who said, don't say standing on his head. I'm with Michael. Michael says go, and I'm with Michael to part of it, and I think there's a scale here. So Michael says, I just think standing on the head comments used way too much, just like Golasso. I think standing on the head should be saved for Tim Howard versus Belgium performances. I'd stretch it a little bit further than that because
What about the Gazan triple that we had the other day?
No, that's different. That's a play. When you say a goalkeeper standing on their head, generally it's for their whole performance, not one time. That's the way I've used it. That's my phrasing of it. But Tim Howard versus Belgium is like a once every decade type of performance. I think to say a goalkeeper standing on their head, it's broader than that. But last night, I'm with Michael. It was not a goalkeeper standing on their head performance. And I said that last night. We went back and forth on Twitter. The goalkeeper was very good.
Yes.
And yes, the goalkeeper made saves that other goalkeepers would not. And Atlanta United did not score earlier than they did because Phil Breno played very well. It's okay to say that. That's all right.
Yeah, but that to me was not standing on his head. I mean, there was a variety of times where Phil Breno came up big for Charleston, but that for me did not classify itself as standing on his head.
To say a goalkeeper standing on their head, it's a feel for me. Like, I don't have a number of saves they have to hit. I don't have any of that. It's a feel. Tim Howard against Belgium, yes. Casey Keller against Brazil, 1998, yes. Zach Steffen in the playoff match in 2017, I would say that.
Yes. Yeah.
There's others that I would say that I don't think it's quite that rare as Michael defines it. But that's just different ways of classifying a performance. Golasso, I think in English, because it's not as common, and Michael says, same for Golasso, using too often discredits truly remarkable efforts. If you listen in Spanish, it's used probably every other game.
Yeah.
It's I think in English it's taken as a unbelievable spectacular goal, oh my gosh. And in Spanish that's a really good goal.
Yeah.
That's the way I've kind of seen it. I don't use it really much.
No.
I just describe the goal, but like Mike uses it a lot. In a normal way. I mean, it doesn't ever feel off to me where I'm like, oh, whoa, okay. because it's not just the quality of the goal. It can be the moment. It can be a lot of different things that lead into it. I think golazo is one that is becoming more common in English, and over time, I think the way people see it, it'll evolve a little bit more from that's a rare goal to that's a really good goal, and that's the way I've generally heard it used in Spanish.
Yeah, and from all the time that I've watched Liga MX, that to me is the impression that I get, is that if there's a rocket from short range, if it's emphatic, if it's authoritative, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bicycle from 32 or anything like that. But if in the context of the effort, it's a really good goal. I think that what you hear is that added context to it. If in the situation it means a lot and it's a tremendous goal, it's a really good goal, then they'll use the term. At least that's from what I'm getting when I listen to it.
It's more of how they use it as opposed to the word. That's the differences for me, and I don't think that comes across in English as much. I've heard plenty of times where it's like, oh, golazo, and it's simple and it's short. But then you get, some of the guys who are like, golazo, aso, and then it's okay. That's more than just a really good goal. It's more of the inflection and the volume and how it's used. So we need more words to describe goals. Is basically what it comes down to in English, or more ways to express it as opposed to goal, golazo.
We need Roger's goalsaurus, I guess.
Well, it's your voice. I mean, it's just, your voice as an announcer. And I'm not saying like the actual thing that comes out of your throat. I'm saying the way you use it.
Personality. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell when you listen to Mike the differences between that's a good goal and that's a really good goal and that's a really meaningful goal and the shading of goals. You can hear that because, I sit next to Mike for every game, so I know kind of what he's feeling based off how he's saying something as opposed to the words he's using.
Right.
And I think, more announcers that are in that kind of mindset, you get a sense of it when you hear him a lot. I mean, you can hear it. One of my favorite ever goal calls is the Landon Donovan goal, and not the Ian Dark version, which is great, the Andres Cantor version, where you can hear it in his voice as somebody who's called U.S. games. And, I mean, he's from Argentina, but he is very strongly identified with the United States. You can hear it in his voice as he's talking about it, like tears. You can hear the emotion in his voice. And it gets me every time. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's not so much the words he's using; it's the way he's using them that is so special. So, Michael, good conversation. Like I like it. I do think at times these phrases can get overused. I'm 100% with you, but I think there's more. There's a little bit broader definition of them than some have, at least in my mind. But again, it's all about how we see the game differently. Will Palmer with the super sub that I forgot, and I'm kicking myself for forgetting it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Manchester United, 1999 Champions League final, the ultimate of super sub performances. And he was that guy anyway for Manchester United. Never could really lock down the starting job, but man, dangerous off the bench scoring goals for that team when they needed it.
KFC agrees with Alan Gordon when it comes
Best
to super subs.
History.
Lately, any Alan Gordon game saver for the hashtag Flashback Friday. So that was where KFC was coming from. Tofka wanted to know what the thoughts were about Andrew Carleton.
It's the same as Pippi in a lot of ways. Like there were people who said Carleton was awful. I didn't see that.
No.
I thought he faded as the game went on. I think he got frustrated in the second half as it went on. But I thought Andrew Carleton in the first half was really good. And I didn't think he hurt himself for more playing time at all. I thought, and I agree with Tofka in that. Tofka said that he was effective in penetrating the low block, and as a plus, he did so responsibly. He worked hard defensively when the ball turned over. He played with passion. He played with that spark. I thought Andrew was very good, and I thought combining with Pereira and Pitti, Andrew looked good. Pereira, I thought, was the one who struggled the most out of the three.
Yeah.
I didn't think Dion really had much of an impact on the match. Just wasn't his night. It happens sometimes. But Charleton, no, I think he was good. I think when he was pulled, if I'm not mistaken, without looking back at it, he was pulled for Vasquez.
Yeah, it was in the 74th.
Yeah, that's your last sub, and you're going for a forward for a creator because you're creating enough. Without Andrew, you need another body up top. So I don't think it was performance. And he was getting frustrated a little bit at that point, too. I think he'd had a couple fouls late and a little bit worried about cards and situations like that. So I thought Charleton was good. I didn't think he was man of the match good, but he was good.
No, I mean, for me, in going through all of my notes and my homework assignment, there's a lot of Miram, there's a lot of Miles, there's Vasquez. First half was Andrew, so of course I saw the first half yesterday, and that was not in the notes, but it's Miles, it's Breck Shea, it's Phil Breno, it's PT, it's Vasquez, and it's Miram.
Yeah, Justin Miram as a super sub in this one was really good. Best performance we've seen from him in an Atlanta United kit for sure. I thought he was excellent. Michael Head says Barco at the end of last season as a super sub. He was a different super sub, though, because he didn't come on to get that goal to rescue you. He came on to just help see a game out and provide that energy off the bench, and he did it really well, and he's more of a player than that. But what impressed me about it was that he embraced the role and did exactly what was needed in that role, that a lot of times you don't see players with Barco's individual gifts embrace. You know, that's a role that I don't want to say anybody can do it, but anybody can put their mind to doing that. It's not a skill role, it's an effort role. And Barco embraced it. And now we've seen this year where you're seeing his skill really, truly come out, and can't wait to see him back in the group. He is back in Atlanta. I believe there was a celebration last night at Pitti's place for his birthday. Pitti had a pretty good birthday, I think. And Barco could be in the mix for Tuesday. I don't think you have to rush him back, but he could be in the mix for Tuesday depending on how he's feeling. Let's take a break. We got some more on Twitter. We'll get some more as we go as well. Favorite super sub for your team or any team in soccer history. Share those with us on Twitter. Share your thoughts on Atlanta United. Share your thoughts on the U.S. women's national team who plays again on Sunday. Copa America Gold Cup kicking off this weekend as well. Copa America tonight, Gold Cup tomorrow. All kinds of games to talk about.
All the soccer.
And no Open Cup. So John won't cry. He'll have plenty of things to watch. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. June 14th edition. It's a Friday. It's a Friday flashback edition. Let us know your favorite super sub. We've got some more nominations to discuss. You talk about a team and being up for a game like Charleston was last night and how that carried them for a good while. I think you're seeing some of that in a way play out with the Women's World Cup. Not so much in the game this morning. Japan 2-0 up on Scotland at the break. Scotland, I felt like, was the second best team in this group based off the first game performances. Japan struggled to break down Argentina. Scotland battled with England 2-1. I thought Scotland was pretty good. I thought Scotland would do better here. Scotland was so up for that game emotionally with England that I think they're feeling the after effects of it. They've got a little bit of that hangover, and they played over their heads against England. Japan is really good this morning too. I didn't expect them to be this good. I didn't expect Scotland to be this bad. But sometimes that emotion of playing a game that you're up for can carry you to play above your head a little bit. And I think Scotland did that against England from what we're seeing against Japan.
Yeah, and it looks like Sugasawa got the most out of the activity inside the area for the penalty call there.
That was the vaguest description of anything I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of a tug on the left shoulder, and she milked it and went down, and yeah, okay, so you called it. Yeah.
A tug's a tug. I mean, it's it's funny.
Wasn't a whole lot there. Wasn't there.
Okay. What do you want the player to do? Not go down?
No, I'm just saying.
No, I know. I need an answer. It's, do you want that player to get pulled? Because the player was pulled, 100%. Shoulder was grabbed, came backwards. Do you want them to try to stay on their feet, risking not getting that call? Because how many times do you see that happen? Or do you want them to go down because they were pulled?
Oh, no, it's you go down because you were pulled. I'm just saying that there wasn't a whole lot there.
It's a pull. It's not. There's not a scale. Now, there's been some talk that would be really interesting that referees would have the jurisdiction to go, indirect kick instead of penalty in a situation like that. Well, it's not a penalty foul.
Yeah, I heard about
strong
that yesterday.
Foul. I don't like that. I think that's stupid. I think that's going to create all kinds of chaos. Foul's a foul. Pull's a pull. It's
inside the box is inside the area.
Well, that's obvious, but I'm saying a foul is a foul. There's not a level of a foul outside of yellow card, red card.
There's no kind of foul.
Yeah, there's none of that. The player was pulled. That's a foul, and they got the call. I don't think the attacking player did anything wrong there, and it gets back to a conversation about Pity Martinez last night. He was just flat out grabbed, and it probably would have been holding for Kennesaw State's football team.
Brian Bohannon
would have been screaming that it's a hold, and Pitty didn't get the call. And there was some conversation about Pitty's got to play through it. There's not much you can do to play through that. I guess instead of being upset about not getting a call that would have given you a free kick in the final third, you should block it out and just not react, but that's not human. He was frustrated. He should have got that call. And I think his frustrations and I don't know what he said. I don't know if he said anything. It was more of the stare for the referee as to really?
Yeah.
Really? You're not going to call this?
Really, dog?
I think that earned him a makeup call at midfield right after that, because I think Atlanta got the call immediately after. And it's that probably wasn't a foul, but that's a makeup. I thought the announcers were dead on that. But it was his reaction that got that. So what else do we have on the Twitters as we wrap up hour number 1?
Katie Weaver, not necessarily my favorite super sub because it's probably Dempsey because he's just my favorite, but Peter Crouch could change games with his 8-foot fame ability to win balls and create chaos.
Yeah, that's two players who are maybe not as well known for their super sub abilities, but became super subs as their career went on. I mean, yeah, Peter Crouch at his size, it's just you can't, have a matchup for that really. And Crouch was so good with the ball at his feet. Then Clint Dempsey at the end of his career, I mean, he became a super sub. He was a super sub for the U.S., and he was an effective one. But those are two guys that you wouldn't think of as super subs necessarily because they started their career as such good players. Peter Crouch is a better player than he gets credit for. I think when we think of Peter Crouch, we think awkward, we think robot.
Yeah.
And, man, he was really good. And he had a run there in the mid-2000s where he was one of the best forwards in the world. Flat out. He was that good. 2006 World Cup, around that, like years before and years after, he was outstanding.
Shiva looked at the game yesterday as a game that we could finally come back after being down a goal and score against a bunkering team, and we did it without our striker and our best player. I am satisfied. And the thumbs up icon.
Yes. All that is definitely true. I mean, you get that in your pocket now that, hey, can't cite the whole thing about can't win if the opponent scores, can't win if they score first. They found a way back without Barco and Joseph to lead the way. They found a way back. I would say, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this to be the narrative. I do think that as just an individual talent, Pity Martinez is the best player on this team. Is he always the most productive? No. Barco has been the most productive, I think, just in sheer quality this season. But in individual talent, I think Pity's the best player in this team. I think Pity is a world-class talent. I do.
Let's see.
One more before we go.
El Mataflow. Yeah, El Mataflow's super sub. Jaime Ivan Cavitas, Ecuador, circa 2002. He was supposed to be the next big thing out of Ecuador after Akinaga, but drugs and weight held him back from being that. He scored a late equalizer to take Ecuador to their first World Cup.
I remember the hype about him, and yeah, he was supposed to be that special player for them, and it just never happened. And I mean, you see the super sub role like in situations where it's a young player breaking through, or like we talked about with Dempsey and Crouch, an older player at the end who can't give you the 90 minutes anymore. Cavitas was going to be the one who was going to evolve into the stud for that team and that country, and he just never could do it. There's so many players like that when you think back that were going to be the man, and it just didn't quite happen. And yeah, a lot of times there's stuff off the field that leads to that. That's a good shout. I got to go back and watch some highlights of him now because I remember him. I don't remember a ton of detail, but I remember him and the talent and the hype around what he was supposed to be. Let's take a break. We'll see who some of Mike Conti's favorite super subs are. We might get some all sports conversation going with Mike on that. We'll see what he thought about the match last night. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com. or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, June 14th. Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game joins us. Mike, how weird was it not calling the game last night?
Hated it. Had trouble even watching it, to be honest with you. Like, it's just very, very bittersweet. Bitter, really, that we didn't get to do the game. And I guess I'm not too terribly aggrieved that we don't have to go to Columbus on Tuesday. Not one of my favorite stadiums from which to do a game. But I just really wish we could have been there and doing it.
But, hey, the thing is, the TV announcers would not be there, so I think we'd be okay on a booth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whatever. I didn't like it. But again, you all know the story by now. I mean, the radio station basically offered them free airtime last night, knowing it was a closed-door match. The club twice went to them and said, we can provide a local radio broadcast, and U.S. Soccer said no. So that's what we've got, and that's the way it's going to be all the way through the final, which I think Atlanta United now has a very good chance to get to, at least to the semifinal. There is a very, very clear path for them now after what happened last night.
So then how was your birthday?
Other than that, it was great. I would have liked to have spent my birthday doing the same thing I did on my birthday last year, which is calling a game. So, whatever. No one cares. No one cares how we feel. It was important to get that win. They saw out the match last night in the way that we expected them to. It was a very bizarre evening, and let's just hope that Tuesday we have less bizarreness.
Yeah, more control, less bizarreness. Don't give up an early goal. And it was just one of those things that we've seen this season at times. We hadn't seen it in a while, actually, where it's just an individual mistake. And, Franco Escobar lets it run to try to turn and start a break. And A.J. Patterson, young player for Charleston, reads it clearly and then delivers a good ball into Svanteson, who has no hesitation and puts in a shot off the far post that I don't think any goalkeeper is getting to from that movement.
No, and I think it's understandable, too, from a communication standpoint. You're going to expect errors like that when you don't have Brad Guzan in net. I'm not blaming Alec Can, but the communication is a lot different. And I think you went into that match last night with all of the weirdness with travel and having the match move to a different city on a different date. You kind of had a feeling that there was going to be some sloppiness in the first half hour, and Atlanta United made the mistake, but then Charleston almost came back and put in an own goal. So I thought both teams were very, very sloppy and out of sorts in the first half hour. The problem is, as you said, Jason, when you give up that early goal, it basically, opens the door for your opponent to bunker, which Charleston attempted to do. And credit to Atlanta United for finally breaking that down. I thought as the second half went on, Frank made a good, savvy substitution to get Vasquez in there. Vasquez, I think, now has a very interesting case to start on Tuesday night, which we'll get into in a moment. But Frank, again, pushed some correct buttons with his substitutes. I thought Pitti, as the match went on, got more and more comfortable, really started to create more opportunities. And it just felt like over the course of those 2 hours, you saw the chemistry really starting to come together with that group. And that's encouraging because I went into last night with the expectation that you're a vastly superior side in terms of talent, but you have a lot of things going against you as far as being able to go out and play a crisp first half hour. You have not played since June the 1st. You're playing with a bunch of different guys that haven't played together all year, even in preseason, as far as that starting 11 is concerned. And Atlanta United got through it. Now they've advanced. And like I said, they have a very clear path with Columbus and then a potential home match against St. Louis or Cincinnati to get to the semifinal.
So then, dealer's choice, Mike. I'll give you a couple of names, and you can talk about whoever you wish to talk about in this particular question and answer. I've got Justin Meram. I've got Miles Robinson. I've got Petey. I've got Charleton. Take your pick and run.
Charleton got better. A little bit of a slow start. I thought he grew into the match. I think the circumstances of being down 1-0 at the hour mark basically forced Frank's hand to take him out. I don't think Charleton played himself out of the match. Tuesday night, I think you're probably looking at starting Charleton again. I think you're looking at a few potential changes. I think, obviously, Romario Williams seems extremely questionable now for Tuesday night. So one is to assume Vasquez or maybe Gordon Wild for him. Gressel, I think, probably comes in. Actually, now that I say that, I mean, I'm assuming that Charleton starts again, but maybe not. If you're going to start Gressel, then maybe you play Gressel as your central attacking midfielder and Charleton comes out. I don't know. But I don't think Andrew did anything last night that would make Frank say, okay, we can't play him anymore in a starting role in this tournament. I think quite the opposite. I just wish he would have gotten a little bit more time. But when you give up the early goal and you're chasing that equalizer at the hour mark, it forces the manager's hand, unfortunately.
Yeah, you had to go for the striker up top in Vasquez. And Brandon Vasquez, I said it earlier, I think it was his best performance in maybe 2 years. He really made his claim in this team in the summer of 2017, and the Open Cup was a big part of it, where he was scoring goals in those games against Charleston and Miami. Comes off the bench and rescues this team in a big way, and he had a running buddy in Justin Meram. I thought both of them were outstanding.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You need to have the service, right? Take nothing away from Brandon, but I thought Meram came in and provided some really good service. Pitti as well. What did they have Pitti at key pass-wise last night? 8?
8. Four in the first half, and the first half that he was, again, according to some, bad. He had 4 chances created.
I don't know.
He got better.
We all watched.
See,
we all watch the games differently. I don't think he was ever bad. I think he got better. But
that's the thing to me is his second half was absurd. I mean, his second half and how good he was, it was absurd. To say he was bad in the first half, I think is a little silly. I thought he was good on the night, and he got better as the night went on, and then hit the wall a little bit, as everybody did, because they got tired.
Yeah, I agree. But I think, Vasquez doesn't get those 2 goals without Meram, right? So, and take nothing away from him, but I really like the impact that Meram had. And I think that's a testament to Miram's professionalism. He was on international duty. He did get called into a training camp. I don't know where it was. I don't know how much he had to travel. But he absolutely would have had an excuse to go up to Frank and say, don't put me in the 18. I'm tired. When Atlanta United acquired Justin Meram, I think you and I, Jason, thought that he was going to make an impact on this team. He was going to help them. And he has absolutely done so and played a phenomenal match in relief last night. Very, very good to see. And Justin Meram, the more minutes he gets with this group, the more chemistry he can develop and the more he can be relied upon when you get into September and you're playing a ton of matches again and you're going to have to rotate the squad a little bit.
And then, Mike, you look at somebody like Miles at the back, and Miles got into the offensive attack. There was the one flick, the back heel that almost went in, integrating with Brandon Vasquez in the second half when he came in as well, and working the standard Miles Robinson effort that we see, shouldering folks off the ball to make sure that it would be a goal kick instead of a corner. So, you look at Miles, and he continues to just impress regardless of competition.
Yeah, no question about it. It must be nice to be young, right? Because you would be looking at Miles right now saying, God, you've got to give this guy a break. But he doesn't really show any signs of fatigue or slowing down, does he? Now I think you've got an interesting decision for Tuesday. I mean, do you reintroduce Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, maybe give Miles a break? I think you want to keep playing Pogba. I think he needs minutes with this group. So do you give Miles a break, or do you keep going with him? And do you end up giving Leandro the entire international break off? I think at the very least, Leandro will travel to Columbus. He did not travel to Charleston. But all of a sudden now, I mean, you got a little bit of a question at center back as far as how you're going to get all three of these guys into Open Cup. I don't know if you agree with me, guys, about Pogba needing the minutes, needing to continue to play, but I am assuming Pogba starts again on Tuesday. So do you don't think he needs the time?
I don't know, not because of that. I don't know because of the draw you have now. I mean, you're in a situation where you win on Tuesday. You go up to Columbus and win that match. You're hosting a quarterfinal against either the worst team in MLS or a USL championship team in the quarters to get to a semi.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're at a point now where it's best available. And that might be Florentine Pogba, because you might decide that, hey, Leandro, in terms of right now where he is, he would benefit from the break, or Miles would benefit from the night off. But I don't think you're thinking about the Open Cup now in the way of, I want to give guys minutes who haven't been getting them. I think it is, who are my best available players today for this game? I think that's where we're at in the tournament now.
But, I look at Columbus, no Zardes, so you don't worry about the height on set pieces necessarily. Now, Pogba, Miles, I mean, that's interchangeable. They're going to give you height either way. But they won't have Zardes. They won't have Trapp. They don't have Higuain. This might be a little too misplaced, but I feel like you could rotate this club on Tuesday and still pretty easily get to the quarterfinals. Columbus's recent form has not been good at all. They can't score goals right now. They have, as I said, 3 very key players out, 4 if you want to count Zach Steffen. I don't know. Now, that might be too aggressive. That might be misplaced. The other thing, to your point, Jason, is you'll have a full week after the Columbus match before you play a league match. That's where getting drawn into a Tuesday match actually kind of helps. They could have played it a few days later. But Atlanta now can fly back home on Wednesday and have 6 days at home before flying up to Toronto the subsequent Tuesday.
Yeah, it works out schedule-wise. And this was why when we talked about the Open Cup coming into it, that I felt like Frank de Boer was going to use this in a different way than we had seen Tata Martino use it, because of this extended break and the idea about still you're implementing your philosophy. You want players to play in a certain way, and they were playing so well coming into the break that you wanted one more game. You wanted this round of 16 game because you wanted another opportunity to get guys minutes, but guys meaningful minutes. And now it's become really meaningful because you're able to look down the road in this tournament and say, man, we could be hosting a quarterfinal in an incredibly winnable game, and then going on to a semifinal, and then you're 2 games away from going back to the Champions League no matter what happens this season. It's that side, but also you don't have to go sign guys from Atlanta United to play minutes or sit on a bench like a lot of teams have in this tournament. You have real competition for playing time for MLS matches and for these. I mean, we could go through a lot of different spots in the lineup for Tuesday and say, well, is it going to be this guy? Is it going to be Andrew Carleton on the left if you bring Gressel back into the middle? Is it going to be Ezequiel Barco coming back? Maybe you're going to give him time off the bench. Does Dion Pereira keep the spot? Does Justin Merrim get the start? Like, there's a lot of competition, good, healthy competition.
Yeah, I just think you have to be a little bit careful. Like, for a guy like Breck Shea, who played 120 minutes and was doing a lot of running and was clearly gassed at the end of the match, a guy like Nagby, who had to play 120 minutes, I would not fault Frank at all. Even Escobar, who was totally gassed and taken out in stoppage time. I wouldn't fault Frank at all if he decided to give some of those players the night off on Tuesday. Maybe you play Mike Ambrose at left back, you play Parkhurst at right back. I even worry a little bit about Pitti. He looked pretty fresh to me. He looked pretty game at the end of the match. So, but I think you still have to be a little bit cautious because 120 minutes on a Thursday, travel Monday, play Tuesday. It's probably not too much of an ask, but I think it's something you've got to be a little bit mindful of.
No, and that's what I'm saying, and I say the best available for the game. I don't think you're coming in at it looking at, okay, let's say Mikey Ambrose, for example. Breck Shea, tired, needs the break on somewhat shorter rest, and Mikey Ambrose could play on the left. You're not going to say, which we've seen in this tournament before from Atlanta and we've seen from other teams do, you're not going to say, well, I don't want to play Mikey Ambrose here either. I'm just going to play somebody at left back. It's not that situation.
Right.
I think you have the depth and you have the competition for spots that you can make those decisions in a very responsible way. Okay, if Escobar isn't ready to go and you're like, well, he played 120, I'll have him on the bench in case I need him, but I can play Michael Parkhurst on the right side, and then I can play 2 of 3 in the middle between Pogba, LGP, Miles Robinson. You have a lot of choices here, and none of them are really like throwaway choices is the difference to me.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's not like you're looking at the ATL UTD2 lineup and having to pull some guys up just because you need to fill out a team. That's a really good situation to be in. You might even potentially be thinking about bringing Barco back in somehow for this match.
Maybe off the bench.
Sounds like maybe off the bench. I mean, it sounds like Tito's not there yet, but Barco is. So, I mean, what a luxury. I mean, you're actually getting more guys into the fold now as opposed to trying to really scramble and just throw something together for Tuesday.
And that way you're not coming back into league play against Toronto, completely, dead with no rhythm. Like you're getting these games. This game, getting this round of 16 game, I think was really important to hit the ground running when league play resumes.
Well, and I mean, imagine if they did not have it and they would be looking at 12 days off between last night and playing in Toronto and maybe stewing over what happened, losing to a USL team. You're right. It was a big win. And it was a big win to not get it in penalties either. It was big to get it, with 2 goals in added time. It's just, I feel like you have a different feel when you win a match like that in penalties as opposed to getting a clean win in extra time. So really important for Atlanta United, the way they saw that out last night, the way they took advantage of a tired opponent. Statistically, it was a dominant performance by Atlanta United. I don't see a whole lot of hand-wringing over this performance on social media, and that's a good thing. I don't think that would be fair. I mean, you outshot them 34-10. You had 71% of the possession. I think Charleston had 45 clearances or something. So you completely dominated the match. And I like the fact that they got the reward with the 2 goals in added time, because when you go into penalties, even if you win, it doesn't feel like you really got a clean win. This feels a little bit cleaner the way that they got it last night.
We've had a couple of other earth-shattering topics this morning, Mike, here on the show. And one of them is the Friday flashback question. Favorite super sub? And we've kind of widened this out from just soccer. I know folks have mentioned Dempsey and Peter Crouch and things like that. Jason brought up Vinnie Johnson when it comes to basketball. Is there a favorite super sub in the brain of Mike Conti?
I grew up in Philadelphia. Yeah, I was a big Eagles
Bobby
fan
Jones.
as a kid. Well, Bobby Jones is a great one, too. He was the 6th man of the year when the Sixers won the title in 1983. But to me, it's Jim McMahon. And let me explain why. So the 1991 Philadelphia Eagles had a historically good defense under Buddy Ryan and had Super Bowl expectations coming off a 1990 season where They had a dominant defense. They were pretty good on offense. Randall Cunningham had a terrible playoff game against the Washington Redskins. They were out in the wild card round, but 91 was going to be the year with that defense anchored by Reggie White, the offense anchored by Randall Cunningham, who was really a total outlier quarterback in the NFL because of the way he scrambled. And Randall Cunningham got hurt very, very early in the 1991 season. So here comes Jim McMahon, who was the backup quarterback for the Eagles just 6 years after he won a Super Bowl for the Bears, playing with Buddy Ryan there. And it's like, wow, here's this guy with a mohawk, and he has that helmet visor where you can't see his eyes. And, he says kind of outrageous things here and there, really entertaining, kind of rebellious guy. And Jim McMahon went in there and played really, really good football and almost single-handedly led the Eagles into the playoffs. And a lot of people thought the season was over when Randall Cunningham got hurt. And that was a real learning experience for me as a kid, that just because your starting quarterback gets hurt doesn't mean the season is over. Ironically, the Philadelphia Eagles then went on and won their first Super Bowl, 25 years after that, with a backup quarterback. So it was a learning experience. But Jim McMahon's always the one that stands out to me, because as a kid, I just thought he was so cool, wearing that visor on his helmet where you couldn't see his eyes, and kind of lifting the Eagles out of the grave in that 91 season and making it very interesting.
Yeah, it's easy
now
to
you
forget
mentioned
about
quarterbacks
in Philly.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned quarterbacks, and then that brings into mind George Blanda and Earl Morrall, which just dated myself with my football cards at that.
Well, and my buddy here at the radio station, DJ Shockley, someone who had to really wait his turn at UGA, and ended up being he had one of the great single seasons in UGA history in 2005. But a lot of people forget the game that Georgia lost prior to the Sugar Bowl was the game where Shock couldn't play. Down in Florida, I think they had Joe Tarashinsky's kid as the quarterback that day. But I remember Shock coming off the bench a couple times to relieve David Green in 2004. So any talk of a super sub quarterback would have to include him.
See, this is why we bring these things up. And then what was the other topic? But the use of the use of Galazzo and standing on your head, that was the other one this morning.
we had a conversation, yes. Our friend Michael Head, who listens all the time, told me that I shouldn't say that Phil Breno stood on his head last night. And I agreed. I thought Phil Breno for Charleston had a very good night in goal. He made double-digit saves, so I think to try to diminish his performance is silly. But it didn't feel like a standing on their head performance. Michael said that standing on their head should be reserved for Tim Howard Belgium level performance. And I think it's broader than that. Like, it's a little bit wider. It's one of those, and Golasso is a much wider scale to me. But it's one of those that you kind of know it when you see it, as opposed to there being some benchmark in it. Like, it's not a number of saves.
Thank you,
not
Justice
a specific
Stevens.
type of save. It's not a specific type of goal. It's just, you know, a standing on their head performance when you see it. You know a Golasso when you see it.
Well, I mean, as far as standing on your head is concerned, Breno was good last night. I thought he made a bunch of routine saves.
He made some
standing
good ones
on your
too.
head is that. Standing on your head is that 3-save sequence that Maxime Crepeau made against Atlanta United up in Vancouver. That's standing on your head.
See, it was funny because John mentioned the Brad Gazan flurry of saves as well, and I think of standing on their head more as an overall 90-minute performance, or 120 if it needs to be, as opposed to like a moment. But I hear people use it in both ways.
Yeah, I would lean more towards John. As far as Golazo is concerned, I agree, Jason. I think it's just one of those things, you know it when you see it. I think there's even a difference of opinion on, like, for example, Tito's 75-yard run against Columbus last year where he's slaloming through traffic, cuts across the face of goal and scores. That's not like a wonder strike like Barco had on the edge of the 18 in New England, but both were Golazos. I've always been led to believe that a Golazo is a goal that is scored requiring a great amount of skill. And I think that's really, really open to interpretation. Like the counter goal that the U.S. women's national team had against Thailand the other day, their 9th or 10th where it was like a 90-yard counter and a beautiful ball to put it right on the plate for the finish. That's a golazo, in my opinion. It wasn't necessarily an overly difficult finish, but the build-up to the goal was spectacular. That's a golazo to me. Carly Lloyd chipping from 50 yards out in Vancouver in 2015, that's also a golazo. Jason, you've been with me in the booth now for 2 years. This year, how many golazos do you think I've called? Maybe 3? I mean, I know Barco in New England. Well, Savarino in Salt Lake, I call that a golazo. Pabon in Monterey, I know that was a golazo. Barco, I think I've given him 2.
Barco in New England for sure.
Yeah, and I think the one in Kansas City, but not positive. But I
think so.
Do you agree with me? I'm using a Rick Hamlet term. Do you agree with me that I don't generally say golazo unless it is absolutely warranted?
You know, I'm gonna come at it a little bit different way, because I think that you are the only one in English that I hear regularly, and of course I hear you more regularly than anybody else. But
you have no choice. Yes,
but you use it in the way that I generally hear it in Spanish used, because in English I think when it gets said, it is a very specific type of special goal. But in Spanish, and you use it in this way, it can be a golazo, like Savarino. It was a golazo against you. It hurt, but it was a great goal.
Yeah.
It can be a special goal like the Barco goal against New England, where it has more emphasis, but it's a golazo. They're very different. Or the Tito goal against Columbus that was like super special because of the way it was scored and the moment in the game that it put it away, and all of that went into it. The Tito goal against Red Bulls in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
That was a special golazo.
Absolutely. But then also the Tito goal in San Jose, which is a lot like the Barco goal from this year, where you're down 2-0. I mean, it's not even halftime yet, but it's a goal of exceptional skill. I want to push back a little bit, because that god-awful Atlanta United fan Facebook group, there's some people there that think I say golazo after every single goal, and I want to push back against that. That's not true at all.
But the thing is, you do use it, but you use it in the way that it is intended in Spanish, in my opinion, because there are different shades of golazos. A golazo can be, just a simple, it's a golazo. It can be in Spanish where it would have, extra O's, extra Z's.
Yeah.
And it can be one that's said over and over again. Like, it's more about your inflection, your emotion in the call that defines the golazo, as opposed to just saying it. And I think generally in English commentary, when it's said, it's a golazo. But that's not what it is to me. That's not what
there's different
special goal is. Yeah, it's the context, and it's the way you use it as opposed to the word. And that captures what it is in a Spanish language call to me. And I think you're the only guy that does it that way.
Yeah.
Well, good. I feel a little bit better then about my use of it. But
no.
I kind of feel like you feel it. You kind of know it when you see it. It's not like you go into a match planning, we're going to have 2 golazos today. I think you kind of feel it. And there's no template for what it is. In the same way that there's no template for standing on your head. I agree with John. I think a net mouth scramble can be standing on your head just as much as a 90-minute clean sheet performance can be.
Yeah, I usually use it to describe a game as opposed to a moment, is the way that I think of it. Like, if I say a goalkeeper stood on his head for the game, that's the way I'm thinking of it, not as much in an individual moment. But again, I'm with you. It's something you know when you see. It's not just, they made 12 saves, so he stood on his head. No, it might not be a stand on the head performance. And Breno had a really good night. But if Charleston had won the match, I don't know if he would have definitely been man of the match for me.
Well, I mean, he might not have stood on his head, but he definitely made a save with his head, so you could say that.
He did. He was good. He was very good last night. But yeah, it's phrasing. It's these conversations are good because I think people get a chance to see, like, you know, the color around the game, and I don't know if we have these conversations enough. So, good talk. It was fun.
Always fun with you guys.
I'm delirious. I'm sorry. It was a long night last night. I apologize.
We got another game tomorrow, brother.
Well, I'll get sleep between now and then. It's all good.
True. All right.
No, it was a good. I mean, look, this is the Cup, and I think a lot of people and Joe Bost was funny last night because he was freaking out about the performance on paper, where you look at you're playing a USL Championship team, and it's, you know, you struggle to beat them, but how many times in Cup competitions around the world do you see these moments happen? And I mean, Mike, you can speak to it from. I think the only comparison we have is the NCAA basketball tournament, and how many times do you see a 12 scare a 5 or beat a 5 or a 13 scare a 4, but they come back and they fight through it. It happens when you get underdog matchups sometimes.
And not only that, there's not that big of a gap between MLS and USL Championship, in my opinion. I mean, there is a gap, but it's not an overwhelming gap. Right. We see cup sets all the time. Talk to Chicago this week. I mean, cup sets happen all the time. This was a very weird setup to begin with, and it was right for Atlanta United to get hit with an early goal because of, I mean, obviously Charleston probably extremely emotional with everything we've heard about the way they felt about this match being moved and you know, what they've had to go through to just even play this game. Atlanta, again, playing with a little bit of a different lineup, not dramatically different, but a little bit. And you get burned with the early mistake. And kind of like the Dallas match on April the 20th, it opens the door for your opponent to play, 10 guys within 40 yards of your goal. And that's going to happen. I thought Atlanta United outplayed Charleston last night. That's what I take away. Did they struggle to beat them? Yes. Because it makes it easy for Charleston to have a game plan when they score the first goal. But Atlanta absolutely controlled the match, and that's what I take away. And I just hope that Tuesday they bring the kind of effort and quality that we've seen from them over the last couple months, because you've got a golden opportunity to win this Cup. And I hope they take advantage. They had a golden opportunity to win the Cup last year. If they had beaten Chicago, they would have hosted a USL team to get to the semifinal, and they did not beat Chicago. Had probably their worst performance of the entire season against Chicago. I look for them to be much, much better Tuesday night.
Yeah, same here. I think they take this very seriously and go in with a very professional mindset in Columbus. Going to be a fun one to look at as we get closer to it. Mike, thanks as always, and enjoy the vacation next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you in another week.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Friday flashback. Soccer Down here, June 14th. Favorite super sub. Jarrett Smith came in our direct messages and said Sydney LaRue when she was breaking into the U.S. women's national team. That's a good shout. LaRue was that spark plug off the bench for the U.S. women. Gave you a very different type of forward when she was coming into games with her speed. We'll see if Sydney LaRue gets back. I believe she has not had her second child as of yet. I think it's any day now is where we're getting to with this. But I'll be curious to see if she comes back after this. She was going to come back before the second child, and now she's taken another bit of time off. But she's still with the Orlando Pride. I would expect that when she's able to play, she's going to get back into the mix at the club level, and then we'll see if she can get back into the national team level.
Yeah, and I think that he would have said Alan Gordon. I think Jarrett would have said Alan Gordon if none of us had mentioned Alan Gordon.
Well, Alan
previously.
Gordon was more than just a San Jose player. Don't just put it because San Jose is there.
Did we answer Tofta's question about indirect free kicks for the hard-to-decide handballs in the box?
No, I think it's stupid. You can't. I don't think you can create that level of, well, I'm not completely sure of what it is, so let's just give it an indirect. I don't like that solution to it. Look, handballs are going to be a judgment call, and judgment calls are going to always create problems. I think in their efforts, and this is the international IFAB. I want to make sure I get IFAB's acronym correct. Give me 1 second. The
International Federation.
I don't remember if it's International Federation or what.
International Football Association Board.
There we go. I knew it was something a little odd. So they are the masters and controllers of the laws of the game. And they made a change in the way that handballs were defined for the upcoming, well, now it's in effect because you're in competition in the 2019-2020 year. The Women's World Cup is the first tournament to incorporate it. They're defined differently, and it's defined about the arm being outside of the silhouette. And I think in terms of the way it's used, there is also an element, because Christina Uncle has mentioned it on Fox broadcasts, about is the play expected? But what they were trying to do was make the definition stronger to where there's less gray area. I don't think they actually did. And I think in trying to take out some of that gray area, you have some calls that feel unfair. And this is going to be, I think, more of a conversation as VAR becomes more prevalent. Look, this is the first tournament we've seen VAR on the women's side as well. And you have players who are not accustomed to it, managers who aren't accustomed to it, referees who are getting new to it. So some of the issues that we saw in MLS at the beginning of VAR, I think we're seeing here in this tournament, where it's figuring out how much reach do you want to have with video assistant referees, those types of things. Another rule change that just played out in this match is on the goal kicks. You can play it inside the 18. I don't think it is going to have a huge impact. I think it's smart. I think it gives teams who want to build up out of the back a little easier way to do it. Defenders can't come inside the 18 on a goal kick, but you can play the 18. You can play a ball inside the 18 as a short pass, and you're going to see, I think, the game restart quicker, which is good. But the handball thing, I don't think there's scales of a handball. I think a handball is a handball, and it has to be punished as a handball would. I think you have to give referees the opportunity to judge it and judge, is it – I think the intent side of it, the deliberate side of it, should be in the definition. It should be part of the definition, because I think there is a difference between a defender sticking their arm out to get big and block a shot or block a cross, as opposed to a defender who is running and their arms are pumping and their arm is outside of the silhouette but blocks a cross. I think as a soccer player, we know there's a difference in those two things. But when you define it just by the letter of the law, they're both handballs. It's tough. It's a judgment call, and I think it has to just be understood that it's going to be a judgment call. And when you bring VAR into it, I don't want to see VAR be used on judgment calls. I want to see VAR be used on yes-no calls more than judgment calls. And that was, that looked like a handball for Japan, and Scotland wanted it. And that. I mean, according to the definition, as we look outside at this in real time, the arm's outside the silhouette. The arm is stretched out in front. Now, was it intentional? Hard to tell. Hard to judge. I don't know if I'm sold either way. But by the letter of the law, the definition, that would feel like a handball based off the way it's been called in this tournament. And it's not going to be called here. VAR does not get involved. That gets into that inconsistency of it. It's a hard call. It's a hard job to ref. But VAR, what it's starting to do, and I think Jess on our World Cup dates made a really good point about this. What VAR is starting to open up is VAR is black and white. You're taking the context out of it. You're taking the situation out of it. The Norway-France call, I thought it was – I didn't like the call. I didn't like the call at all, because I think the French player made no intent to play the ball and just jumped into a situation where she was going to get hit by a follow-through. That doesn't feel like it should result in a penalty. By the letter of the law, contact was made. The player was, you could say, reckless. I don't think she was reckless, but in a black and white definition, yeah, I can understand why that call was made. Don't like it. But VAR doesn't take context into account. VAR doesn't think about judgment. VAR is black or white. And what you're starting to see now, I think now that we're seeing VAR more and we're seeing these situations come up, is more thought being put into the laws of the game and how things are defined. Because we're blaming VAR for some issues in this tournament specifically. I don't think it's a VAR issue. I think it's a laws of the game issue. And those things are going to need to be addressed or tightened up, because VAR will explode. VAR will exploit those. VAR will show the deficiency in the way the laws of the game are defined.
AA 5 stripes. Have y'all mentioned the great mental and physical strength to step up in the 114th or close to that to catch the battery offside on the save by Can that rebounded? Fantastic work by our backline.
Yeah, I went back to look at this to see if, how much of it is just the Charleston player being a little bit sloppy and how much of it is stepping up. And there was a step up. Now, Miles Robinson's in the middle, and he is stepping up on that initial shot from distance to bring his team out. And Breck Shea steps up as well, and I can't see the other side. It's not in the shot. That does take a tremendous amount of focus. I think there is a little bit of luck to it, too. The Charleston player is just a little sloppy in being in an offside position, but there was intent in stepping up there. And for Miles Robinson to be in that situation, not usually the organizer of the back line, but he played that role last night he played that role from the beginning, but played that role even more after Pogba was substituted, and Lorenowitz was kind of a stopper type of role in front of him. Sometimes dropping in to help, and he dropped in as they got the lead. Robinson was really good physically last night, but he was also really good with reading the game. I thought Miles Robinson was outstanding last night. Another good performance from him.
Let's see what else is on the board. Shiva wants to know about the whole Austin season ticket thing.
They sold a bunch. It's good. I want to see how they deal with it, because and Scotland just pulled one back. So if you're near a TV, you might want to pull up FS1 for a wild finish. It's 2-1 Japan in the 89th now, and there should be a decent bit of stoppage time. Great goal. That's a golazo.
Golazo.
That is definitely a golazo for Scotland. Austin sold a bunch of deposits for season tickets, and I think it's silly to diminish that. There were a lot of people who said the same about Atlanta, like, oh, it's people putting deposits down, they're not going to buy the tickets. The actual conversion rate was really good for Atlanta. My question for Austin, though, is the stadium's only going to seat just over 20,000, and you sold 30,000 deposits. You know, for Atlanta, you sold 26,000 deposits 3 months in, but you had some flexible seating options, and they ended up going from, I think, what was going to be about 29,000 seating for MLS to the 45 that we see now. Austin doesn't have that flexibility. So if you sold 30,000 deposits, what are you going to do if everybody does say, yeah, we're going to buy these tickets?
Well,
I don't know.
But I mean, and how many of it, for me, my biggest question in all of this was, okay, your stadium seats 20, you've got 30. How many of them were for full season? How many did they have the offer of a?
Well, that's a reporting issue. They should not be reporting it as 30,000 season tickets if it's not 30,000 season tickets. That should not include partial, or partial should be combined.
And that's what popped in my head.
But that's bad report. That's misleading reporting. I don't think that's the case. I'm not assuming and thinking that they're trying to be misleading, because that's not how you report it. If they are, then that's a problem. I don't think that's the case. Could some people who put a deposit down opt to get a half season? Sure. But these are just season ticket deposits, so I don't think we're at that point yet. So I'd leave that out of it. My question, no. I mean, it's a deposit. Like, there's no sale. There's no plans on sale yet. It's just a deposit. So could some of them do a half season? Sure. But we're not even at that point yet. So there's no way to know. So I don't think there's any misleading going on about the reporting. I don't think that's the case from Austin's side. The other side that I think people were trying to compare, and only 2 minutes of stoppage time. A little surprised on that. A lot of things other people were trying to compare was, well, Atlanta sold 26 in 3 months and Austin sold 30 in 1 day. Austin's been around as a thing for more than 1 day. Atlanta United existed on April 16th, 2014. There wasn't really much about, yes, you're going to have a team until the week beforehand. So Austin has been prepping for this, whereas Atlanta announced they were coming and said, yes, you can put your season ticket deposit down. So it's a little bit different process in that regard, too. It's great for Austin. It doesn't diminish what Atlanta did or anything. I want to see from Austin's sense how they handle 30,000 deposits for a 20,000-seat stadium. I mean, I guess it's priority, but you could be in a situation where you have people who put down deposits who don't get tickets, and that's kind of weird because you're not selling 20,000 season tickets. You're probably selling 14, maybe 15, because you want some available for group sales. You want maybe a handful available for day of.
So there's lots of questions when it comes to MLS of Austin.
But no. Like, the way you say that is a negative. I don't think it's a negative. Like, it's a question as to, okay, how are they going to do the process? But there's no shade in them selling 30,000 season ticket deposits.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at it. It's like, all right, so this number is larger than your capacity. How are you going to handle it? What's the 10,000 here? Is this just going to be drop off from folks who pull a deposit back? It's like, all right, you've reported this. I'm looking at this strictly at face value. I have no other skin in the game.
Well, you're not going to sell 20,000 season tickets.
More than I'm looking at this strictly as you've got a building that seats 20, at least initially. You got 30,000 people who've put down deposits. How are you going to handle that rather large difference? That I have no. I'm looking at this strictly at face value. I'm not throwing any kind of shade.
There's shade being thrown that I think is unfair, and I think it's shade just because it's Anthony Precourt in Austin. Well, look, what they've done, that's impressive. What they've done so far from a launch perspective has been really, really good. So the questions about Austin as a market I think, are answered now. There's really nothing else to say about Austin not being a good market for Major League Soccer, and this solidifies that. So now it's down to delivering, and yeah, there are logistical questions. I'm with you on that, because maybe 16,000 season tickets for a 20,000 seat venue is what you're looking at.
Yeah, you're gonna want some day of activation.
You got to have like group sales and stuff like that. So like 16 would probably be as far as you would go with it. Now there is talk that the stadium has plans to be expanded. Maybe you push those forward now because you have a track record to show that you should, and that's a good thing. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a straight up comparison as some people are trying to make it to be.
Yeah, no, it's different markets, different things. Joe Bost is done with his hand wringing. He says, "We Atlanta United going to be fine."
No, it wasn't even bad hand wringing. I think it's just the nature of the cup. Like, hey, it's not played on paper. It's tough. It's not easy to do what Atlanta United did last night. You've seen teams lose to lower division opponents. Whether it's a USL Championship team losing to a team in USL League 1 or USL League 2 or NPSL or whatever, it happens. It's difficult. Orange County FC, a bunch of amateurs went into Las Vegas and beat them in their own house. It's not easy. The cup is the great equalizer, and that's what's so fun about it.
El Mataflow says that Mike is right. Golasso is a moment of wonder, marveling at a piece of art, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it's art. You can't define art. And there's
people sit there and
think
that you look at a painting and you sit there and you see something that somebody else doesn't see, and that's the beauty of art.
But it's also not something that is reserved for 2 times a season either. A Golasso is a Golasso. You know it when you see it, and you react to it accordingly. That's it. And there's different scales of it. There's special ones. There's more intense ones. There's more perfunctory ones. I mean, Golosso's a Golasso. It gets used a lot, and that's okay.
And then El Mataflo says, I think it's the 3rd year in a row we've gone down there. We'll come back to win Atlanta against Charleston. That was a 3-0 win last year.
Last year was comfortable. The first time around was kind of funky.
And apparently Tafka says apparently the Austin FC website crashed from too much traffic in the ticket deposit efforts. That's cool. Props.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just weird. Like now it seems like every time that something like this happens. So 10 years ago, if an MLS club announced that they had 30,000 season tickets, people would be freaking out, like happy and amazed. And now the first reaction is something negative in some different way. You know, we're both doing it too. And I'm as positive as you'll find about Major League Soccer. Well, how are they going to handle this? Because you don't have a stadium that's big enough. And then people are saying, well, that doesn't seem right. I don't know how they could pull that off. Well, Anthony Precourt bought half of them on his own. That's not legit. Or whatever. Look, it's a cool thing. It's good. And I feel a lot better about Austin as coming into Major League Soccer now than I ever did because people are responding to it.
No, I'm down. I'm down with OPP. You know me.
That's ooh.
Let's see. Yeah. We're caught up on the Twitters.
Okay. Let me see if we got any more. Let me see if I had anything. I did not see this, and Jess from Unrelegated and Queens of the South and our World Cup dates just sent me a message, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it here because I think it's insane. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to have to read about this. I guess there is a debate now about making the goals smaller for the women's game.
Did not know this.
Stupid.
Yes.
Stupid. Stupid. That's my official response.
Kevin from Charlotte early on. Question about Tito. Why was he given extended leave? And if he's injured, why would he go back home to have it looked at? If he's injured, wouldn't Atlanta United have proper staff and resources to address?
Oh, black helicopters swirling again. it happens where players go back home to get it looked at. I remember Thiago, who at Bayern, when he had, I believe it was a knee injury, it could have been a muscle injury. He went back to his doctors in Barcelona quite often to get things looked at and get it work done. So it could be a situation like that Tito just has a doctor in Argentina that he trusts and he wants to work with, and it's been good for him in his career, and it coincided with a break in the league schedule, and it was cleared by the club. I mean, that's the most important thing here, is that the club, allowed him to go back to Argentina and take a little bit of an extended leave during this part of the schedule. Nothing wrong with it. Don't know the extent of the injury, don't know anything like that yet, but you've got the cover for him. You're okay right now, so it's not like he's out AWOL, and I think that's the biggest element to it. It's not like something's happening that the club doesn't know about, so I'm not too worried about it. These things do happen, though. You do see players, and I think you see them in American sports, too, where players go back to whether it's their first doctor or the doctor that they trust the most or whatever. I'm like that when it comes to doctors and mechanics. I'm going to who I trust because I generally don't trust them. So I get it. I can totally relate to it. And maybe that's just the case here.
Daniel Price, he says, so that was a stressful night. It was much closer than I liked it to have been. Miles, PT, Shea, great. I have mixed feelings about the match as a whole, though conceding early really is our Achilles heel. Hashtag overreaction Friday.
Yeah, conceding early is never good. And it's just an individual mistake here where I don't even put it as much on Can after looking back at it a few times. I think Escobar just tried to do something a little more than he should at that point. And look, he messed up. It happens. A.J. Patterson read it, took it off of him, and then Charleston converted a really nice goal. That's what happens. I mean, that's the game. The alternative is to don't try to build up out of the back, and every chance the ball is at a goalkeeper or a defender's feet, kick it as far away as possible, and then go fight for it on the other side. You're not going to control many games that way. You control games and you can create better opportunities if you can build up out of the back, and I love that even though it didn't work here and it's a mistake and you got punished for it, I love that Franco Escobar had the individual confidence, as John disappeared and is now calling back in, if you hear that. I love that Escobar had the individual confidence to try what he did. It did not come off, and they were punished for it, and it ended up not mattering, which is a good thing in the end of the night. But I would rather have that player than a player who is scared to play and scared to try stuff. I'll take those individual mistakes over a team that's just going to bomb it long and be afraid to have the ball at their feet.
No, I'm right there with you. So agreeing with Escobar, and now I think we're caught up on the Twitter.
Okay, so here's your Copa America and Gold Cup schedules. Copa America is on Telemundo. It's also on ESPN Plus in English. Gold Cup will be on your Univision Deportes and Fox networks. Tonight, the Copa kicks off in Brazil. The hosts play Bolivia. It's 8:30. Tomorrow, you get Venezuela and Joseph Martinez against Peru at 3 o'clock, followed by Argentina and Colombia at 6 o'clock. Then Gold Cup kicks off tomorrow night. Canada and Martinique at 7:30. Mexico and Cuba at 10 o'clock. Sunday, 3 o'clock, Paraguay, Miguel Almiron against Qatar at 3 o'clock. Uruguay and Ecuador at 6. Also at 6 in the Gold Cup, Haiti and Bermuda. And then it's 8:30, Costa Rica and Nicaragua. That's your Copa America and Gold Cup schedules this weekend. U.S. women's national team in action on Sunday against Chile. It will not be 13-0. It will. You won't see that again in this tournament. Don't expect that, please. And I do want to see what the conversation continues to be around. They ran up the score. They celebrated too much. I want to see how this affects the team going forward, because it will still be a conversation. I mean, when you have one of the greatest goalkeepers in women's soccer history, Hope Solo, who led this team to World Cup championships, saying on the BBC that they shouldn't have celebrated the way they did. It's going to be a conversation when they play. I think it's overblown, but I think now at this point, if you're the U.S., you just own it and you just play. And you continue to play with that swagger, you continue to play with that attitude, and you continue to play with the mindset that it's not about participation trophies and orange slices. It is about being dominant. And you have to play in a way to dominate. They need to come out against Chile and not let Chile grow into the game. I think Chile is a much better opponent. I think they made life difficult for Sweden, and they will try to make life difficult for the U.S. If the U.S. can come out of the locker room and get an early goal, I do wonder about Chile's ability to hang on. I think the U.S. has to come out all guns blazing and play with that type of intensity. And honestly, it's a swagger. If you're going to have the swagger to celebrate in the way they did as the night went on, I wish maybe it had been dialed down a little bit personally, because it creates fuel for the opposition. And that's my main concern with it. From a point of they shouldn't have scored, no, that's ridiculous. You play the game in front of you. But now teams are going to be, I think, even more fired up when you play them. You just got to own that swagger and play with it. And the best way you can do that on Sunday is you come out and you score early. And you take control of that game early and you make a statement. The rest of the day on the Women's World Cup is really good, in my opinion. Jamaica and Italy is a fascinating game at noon. I think Italy will try to counter. Jamaica will try to use their speed, because they definitely have a speed advantage. The Italian team, I don't think, has much team speed, but they're very organized and they can defend and then counter, whereas Jamaica, a little less organized, but out just sheer speed up top can cause Italy problems. England, Argentina, we saw what Argentina did defensively against Japan. I don't think they're going to be able to replicate that. It's basically for Argentina, when you look at what happened with Japan and Scotland, now you're going to play Scotland in the final game. Is Scotland broken? They fought back, but they fell short 2-1 here. What are they going to have left in the tank in Game 3? And Argentina with a point to their name right now, it's not so much about getting a result against England, because that would take a miracle. It's about keeping it tight and then beating Scotland in the third game. So Argentina has a pathway to get to the knockout rounds at the Women's World Cup for the first time in their history. The tournaments this summer, I think, as we get into Copa America and Gold Cup now, are going to be fascinating with all kinds of storylines. The Open Cup, going to continue to have storylines. It is a fun summer of soccer with all kinds of games at all kinds of different levels all over the place.
Hashtag summer of soccer.
Yes, digging it. We'll be on ESPN Plus tomorrow for Atlanta United 2 and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh battled against Columbus. I mean, they were not the better team. Columbus deservingly won that one with a clean sheet. Pittsburgh's not a team that scores a ton of goals. Good defensively. Atlanta United 2 derailed Pittsburgh late last season, and I think that loss, outside of Bob Lilly yelling at the team for 45 minutes after the game in the rain on the field.
With the lights off.
Well, the lights were off after about 30 minutes, where it's like, yeah, these guys aren't leaving. We're turning the lights out. That had an effect on Pittsburgh, and they went out in the postseason pretty quick. They're going to come in for some revenge, but the way they play, I mean, it's a defensive style. It's going to be numbers behind the ball, and they're going to look to counter. Atlanta has to be sharp, and it's going to take good performances from guys like Will Vent, guys like Jackson Conway. You're going to have to get some game-changing performances from players, because you're not going to see Andrew Carlton there. You're not going to see Romario Williams there. Gordon Wild would make a lot of sense for the twos on Saturday. Patrick Okonkwo came in and played very well as a sub in their last match against Red Bulls 2. Would like to see more of him. And maybe you get Guillermo Benitez back after his U20 World Cup with Panama. Would like to see him and see if he can continue to build his good form as of late.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the 18 looks like for Stephen Glass at Fifth Third. And I was, as we were discussing things in the Mike Conti segment, I was trying to draw up an 18 for Saturday,
And it was a fairly standard 18 with a couple of wild cards, and Wild was a part of that grouping. But it was an 18 that we've pretty much seen at various points this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond to a very defensive Bob Lilly-based side on Saturday night.
It's going to be a fun one. If you can make it out, join us, please, at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. See some of the next generation of Atlanta United on the field for the twos. If you can't make it out, ESPN Plus is your destination for Copa America.
$4.99 a month.
$4.99 a month. It is absolutely worth it. It will be your destination for Tuesday, Atlanta and Columbus in the U.S. Open Cup. We're going to do something for that. We will do pre- and post-match coverage again like we did yesterday. I don't know if we're going to do it live at a venue and broadcast it as well. Stay tuned. We're going to try to figure that out today as we go. So thanks, everybody, for listening yesterday on all of the shows that we did. All of the numbers were really, really good. Thanks for telling people about what we're doing over here at SDH. And we will have World Cup dates all weekend long. I believe we have some other content coming as well, right, John?
Yeah, we do. We have Jen Hildreth, who we're going to catch up with Jen later today. She'll be our Women's Soccer Weekly. That'll be released. Cindy Harks from Greenville Triumph, the Director of Soccer Operations for your Greenville Triumph. She's a 1v1. That's coming out later today. And then Greenville Triumph Weekly was a bit of a longer conversation with John Harks, and it was good to catch up with him about a variety of topics. And your Charleston Battery Weekly is going back over the highlights of last week, getting you ready for the matchup against Tampa, and catching up with Poppy before she went home for the weekend. And by that, I mean like over the pond home. So a lot of stuff coming out today and tomorrow. It'll be fun, and give it a listen, y'all.
Yes, download the app, spread the word. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the interaction as well. Thanks for all the great questions. Fun conversation this morning. It turned into kind of a Tuesday or Thursday Thoughts edition. It felt very philosophical. It felt like we were sitting under an apple tree somewhere in the park and conversing. It was nice. Thanks, y'all. Yes. We'll be back on Monday with the live show, Monday at 9. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.